I've got myself, or I should say, I have managed to to make myself some more time for this book, the Fastlane, the Millionaire Fastlane, or probably in the future, in my future videos pertaining to this particular book, I shall just abbreviate it as the Fastlane book, for the sake of simplicity. And as usual, I shall give you guys during this filming session, I shall give you guys my own thoughts, slash reviews about another particular chapter of Fastlane. As usual, I shall try to read it and give you guys the review in Great Britain accent, aka the Posh accent, or also known as the London, the central London accent. Since I can't actually find any audiobook that or any narrator who actually narrates this book in Great Britain's posh accent. So without further ado, let us have a read of the FastlaneChp22, or I should say chapter 22. Own yourself first. Events and circumstances have their origin in themselves. They spring from seeds which we have sown. By Henry David Thoreau. Thoreau. Sadly, I don't know how to pronounce this name accurately, since which kind of also serves as a testament to my poor knowledge in literacy and arts. And I really must start learning more about literature and art, philosophy and history. It's my learning experience as a university dropout from the University of Sydney, majoring in chemical and biomolecular engineering, has taken its toll on me. So yeah, that's pretty much all what I can basically comment about my poor pronunciation of people's names, and especially whenever I come across any names that seems so unfamiliar to me. So the following text reads: the paralysis of pay yourself first. Fastlane success demands a well-tuned vehicle, primed and prepared for the journey that awaits. You are the vehicle to wealth. You are a mechanism for movement. You are responsible for making the journey, and the first step in taking charge of you, it is to own you. Surely you've heard "pay yourself first," a common slow-lane declaration born from the classic 1926 book, The Richest Man in Babylon. The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason. I don't memorize the pronunciations of people's names so well. So please, I sincerely beg your pardon for this shortcoming of mine. Since it's such a shame. It makes myself sound like an utterly stupid prick. Yeah, so since this book also mentions, The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason, it definitely, has pointed out my next, my next task on my to-do list, in terms of, content creation on YouTube. So yeah, so please stay tuned for for my own narration of The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason, also in British Posh accent. Yeah. So a good read, but fundamentally flawed. Why does the author say such book is fundamentally flawed? The Richest Man in Babylon. Yeah, let's resume to find it out. If you aren't familiar with Pay Yourself First, it's a slow lane doctrine that urges you to save your money. Pay yourself before all else. Food, gas, car payments, and other bills. This supposedly forces the slow lane's savings rate to accelerate the putrid wealth acceleration vehicle, compound interest, via market investments. The fact is, advising the slow laner to pay yourself first is like advertising a quadriplegic to climb a flight of stairs. It's futilely fruitless. If you have a job, examine your last paycheck. Is your gross pay the same as your net pay? It isn't, and for some, it may be as much as 25% less. Additionally, pre-tax saving weapons such as 401ks and IRAs severely limit your contributions to infantile amounts, where creating wealth on a pre-tax basis in a job becomes organizationally penal. If your primary income source comes from a job, your ability to pay yourself first is paralyzed because the governments are paid first. For pay yourself first to be legitimate, you truly need to pay yourself first in infinite amounts, and the government last. You must own your vehicle. To pay yourself first, you must own yourself. So the author proceeded to explain how to own yourself in this paragraph, as far as I can perceive and conceive. You can't pay yourself first if you don't own yourself. Your vehicle, you must be free and clear. When you have a job, someone owns you, and when someone owns you, you aren't paid first, but last. The first step to controlling your vehicle, is to own yourself so you can truly pay yourself first, and the government last. That is accomplished by shelling your business into a corporation that you control. Maybe, just maybe, I might have bought the pirated version. I don't know, but I do happen to have come across several supposedly grammatical errors, if I'm not mistaken, or if I haven't missed anything critically important. So just for you guys to take a look here. The book here it's kind of strange here, since I'm not sure if you guys can see it clearly, but yeah, I suppose the correct way, the grammatically correct way to express the same meaning should be the first step to control your vehicle instead of the first step to controlling. Well, again, this has me so baffled, but we'll get back to it later. Yeah. corporation serves as the Fastlane frame because it offers the immediate tax benefit of pay yourself first versus pay yourself last. When you own a corporation, net profits are reduced by expenses. The remaining profit is taxed, and those taxes are paid to the government. Additionally, corporations exist separately instead of separate. So again, here it should be set separately instead of separate, because it should be a verb instead of an adjective here. Again, it's quite strange. So I might have probably bought the pirated version. But yeah, I have to do a bit of a proofreading, but without pay, of course. So this just sucks, man. So yeah, so additionally, corporations exist separately from their owners and survive time. It's the surrogate structure that serves as your business system. When you own a corporation, the government is paid 4 times a year. Of course, such saying holds true under the American context, but I'm not sure which state charges the most taxes for different types of corporations or business entities and blah blah blah. So yeah, I just have so much to learn. The more I read this book, the more I begin to realize, I have so much to read and study and learn. So yeah, I know it can also makes you upset or overwhelmed. But during this time of lockdown and with other shite storm going on all around the world, what else? What other choice do we MGTOW Christians or Christian MGTOWs have? Besides reading books and try to improve ourselves spiritually and mentally, a little bit. So it does sucks. But anyway, when you own a corporation, the government is paid 4 times a year, once every quarter through estimated taxes. If you have a payroll, taxes are paid each time you pay your employees. So it also is probably, in other words, you owning a business entity in the form of a corporation or a company does not actually necessitate owning or having a payroll. Probably, most likely, legally speaking, there are some legal loopholes as far as I can see. Yeah, so let's see it. Let's resume. If you have a payroll, taxes are paid each time you pay your employees. I pay myself first 365 times a year, while the government is paid 4 times a year. Doesn't that sound like a structure that is conducive to not only pay yourself first, but also wealth? Yeah. And next we have just making sure if my toe has not got a fracture due to. But my youngest brother is not the one who to be blamed. Because I dashed my foot against a pile of shoe boxes, myself, to vent a little bit, because I had pretty much a couple of more arguments with my grandpa, over some matters, which I don't have much time to explain in details in this particular filming session. But yes, I will make some more time, for that wish to know more. Yeah. So how to own yourself. Like many entrepreneurs, I made the horrific mistake of getting into business as a sole proprietor. Any advisor who recommends a business structure as a sole proprietorship or general partnership should be avoided like an airport toilet. Like an airport toilet. Not sure if I sound sufficiently British or posh. Yeah. Yes, practice makes perfect, regardless. These entities are risky because they don't protect you and catapult unlimited liability onto you and your personal assets. If you are a plumber organized as a sole proprietor and you accidentally leave a pipe cutter at the client's house and the client's 3-year-old kills himself with it, guess what? They are coming after you because you chose an protected business entity. So, in other words, they will hold you solely responsible for for any accidents that might occur. But I'm not sure about the insurance policies that could protect sole proprietor or under the business context of Australians. We often say sole trader instead of a sole proprietor. But I do get what what the author here means to say by saying a sole proprietor nonetheless. Yeah. Thank God. Yeah. So instead of suing a corporation, they sue you and everything you own is up for grabs. Yeah, true. The best business structures for your Fastlane business are: number 1, C Corporation. Number 2, S Corporation. Number 3, Limited Liability Corporation. So they all sound like like a limited company, but how come C Corporation in America never mentions limited liability? At least in this book. Never mind. I just let's resume. Each has its advantages and disadvantages, but all share 2 common benefits: limitation of liability and tax efficiency. The C Corporation is a business structure that survives time and can be easily transferred. So it seems to have some sort of hereditary advantages. If you do wish to let your offsprings inherit the ownership and the ownership and the rulership of the company. Yeah, so corporate profits are taxed at corporate income tax rates, with net income distributed to shareholders. Some C Corp owners use this structure to deploy a strategy known as an income splitting. The strategy is to partition the business's income to both the owner and the business, effectively lowering the tax bracket of the two, versus a large income for just one. While it's not within the scope of this book to dive into tax strategy and corporate formation, it does offer up a Fastlane component, which is control. While C corporations and their owners are subject to double taxation, tax on corporate profits and dividends to shareholders, they are advantageous for larger corporations and corporations with an asset growth strategy. In other words, if you don't plan on distributing profits and are focused on building asset value over net profit, C corporations do the job. Okay. So in other words, if you don't plan on distributing profits and are focused on building asset value over net profit, C corporations do the job. The majority of publicly traded companies are C corps that do not distribute dividends to the shareholders. They grow revenue and asset value. So just another side note here. Unless you plan to simply regurgitate, the contents, the text, a book's author meant to convey to you. Don't read by your voice, by your vocalizing abilities only, but by your heart, so that you can assimilate and absorb as much knowledge and techniques while you read as possible. That of course counts as my own personal experience. Whenever I read a book and do a review and its narration bit, so I'm not sure how you guys read. But yeah, let's resume. So probably the following texts offer more insights into which sort of or which type of corporation to choose and to use in America, of course. So I'm not sure if this can apply in a similar fashion to me if I would like to do some business in European countries such as Belgium and Switzerland. But we'll see. Probably even the Great Britain. So the C corporation, and C corporation is like the S corporation, and S corporation is like a C corporation, except that it isn't taxed as a separate entity, considered a pass-through entity. Taxes aren't paid at the corporate level, but at the individual level and reflected on the owner's personal tax return. C corporations also have some tax advantages because profits are not subject to the hefty self-employment tax that comes with sole proprietorships. However, unlike C corporations, which can have limitless owners, C corporations are limited to 100 owners and will have additional filing requirements. So sounds more complicated. And well, at first glance, it sounds C corporation and S corporation seems easier to manage than a type C corporation. But when you dive in deeper into the contents, the text the author of this book wrote, probably you will find out that it's actually kind of makes managing the company and thereby the attempts to own yourself, to own ourselves, more complicated as MGTOW entrepreneurs who are undertaking projects, tasks, business undertakings as MGTOW entrepreneurs. Yes. So are you with me? Yeah. So next we have the limited liability corp, which aka LLC. An LLC operates just like a corporation with the benefits of a partnership or a sole proprietorship. LLC profits passes through to its owners, called members, and is reflected on the personal income tax. LLCs are also considered pass-through entities because profit passes directly to the owners. For partnerships, the LLC or the S Corp is recommended structure in lieu of a general partnership, which again does not offer liability protection. For small startups, I recommend either an LLC or an S Corp. Stay away from partnerships and sole proprietorships, as they do not limit liability. Creating a corporation is not as daunting as it seems. Depending on your state, it shouldn't cost more than $1,000. Of course, US dollars. In Arizona, one can be created for less than a few $100s. Actually, if my memory still serves, or at least if quite infamous Australian Security and Investment Commission, they used to charge around 457 Australian dollars, upon the inception, or upon the registration of your company as your main trading business entity in Australia under the Australian context. That was during my age, my time, while I was still not exactly a student anymore, since I got my sorry ass kicked out from the University of Sydney in year 2014. To put it more accurately, in August year 2014, and then I went to register a couple of companies there, and that cost 457 Australian dollars. But yes, the latest data I have, the latest data I have about how much it costs to register a company in Australia, costs around 570 or something, unless the infamous like I said, the infamous Australian Securities and Investment Commission, aka ASIC, has already begun to charge more. So yes, please use my data, the information, and the advice and the reviews I provide in this video as for general reference purpose only. I shall not take any responsibility or liability or loss that might occur if you follow or use the information I provide in this video, in this particular filming session. So be warned, be advised, since this line of vocalized texts serve as the main, as the disclaimer, for this video. Yeah, so let's proceed to the last page of this chapter. So lastly, we have selecting an entity. Lastly, we have for this chapter, selecting an entity. Selecting an entity depends on your goals and your vision for your businesses. Here are some general questions to help you decide. What is your exit strategy? Go public, sell to private investors? What is your growth strategy? What is your liability exposure in the worst case? Do you plan on raising capital now or in the future? So yes, the author here has given several questions for you to ask yourself about. As pertaining to what you plan to do, or what you plan to do with the business entity you set up. Of course, under the American context. Just another foolish assumption, another foolish side note here. this book, the information contained in this book might not apply to you if your business, if you currently your business is doing business or is trading outside the United States of America. So yeah, another side note / also another disclaimer here. So just use this book as a general advice when it comes to making your accelerating dash towards your financial freedom, also financial independence. Yeah. So next we have. Do you plan to hire employees? Do you plan to take on new partners? Do you plan on earning profits fast or not for a while? Your answers will determine the best entity for you. In my business, I use both an C Corp and an LLC. And finally, I'm not an accountant or an attorney, and this should not be construed as professional advice. So please consult with someone who has the appropriate credentials to verify or disprove what I recommend. Yeah, so chapter summary. Fastlane distinctions. Pay yourself first is fundamentally impossible in a job. To own your vehicle, you start a corporation that formally divorces you from the act of business. Your corporation is the body of your surrogate, or a surrogate, or a surrogate in American accent. But I just can't recall how to pronounce the words surrogate or surrogate in British Posh accent. So please, I sincerely beg your pardon for my incompetency in my English language. I will keep learning so long as I'm still breathing, so long as I still have self-consciousness. Yeah. The recommended Fastlane business entity is a C Corp an S Corp or an LLC. Okay. So far there are some chapters that have longer text, aka higher level of complexity, while some are quite short, just consisting of just a couple of pages, probably just 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like this chapter, it only has 4 pages in total. Yeah, so far, yes, that's what I can gather in order to give you guys my own thoughts and my humble opinion / review on the book. In particular, this particular chapter 19. Is it? Was I revealing? Yes, Fastlane, chapter 22. Own yourself first. So yes, I still have much to learn, much to gather and salvage. So overall, yeah. But overall, I hope you have enjoyed this content and have managed to salvage something useful, if not fun or entertaining from or encouraging from this video. So yeah, I hope to see you guys next time in my next videos about about entrepreneurship, especially MGTOW entrepreneurship. Yeah, so thanks again, and thanks again for stopping by. Have a wonderful 2021, and a fruitful 2021, and fulfilling 2021. And if God are willing, hope to see you guys again, and on YouTube. So cheers, au revoir, until next time, bye bye.
you